Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, heard on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. How are you? How is your world? How is your outdoor world? What have you done since we last talked here on the radio show? I find myself in kind of a weird situation this week because I'm doing some time shifting. I don't like to do this, but occasionally I find myself in this situation. And usually when it happens, it's to cover myself or prepare for some kind of a hunting trip. So right now I'm in the studio recording the radio show that airs the weekend of the 20th. So in real time, I have not left for Ontario yet. But as you're hearing this show, I'll be back from Ontario. How did I do? Did I shoot a bear? You tell me. You'll know by then. If you go to my Facebook page or YouTube channel or Instagram or Twitter, Mike Avery Outdoors or Avery Outdoors on all of those, you'll know how it went. I went to Ontario not with the intent of shooting a bear. I told you that last week, and it sounds kind of strange, doesn't it? I went to Ontario to bear hunt. Is there a difference? In my mind, there is. I went to Ontario with the intent of seeing some good friends up there, of seeing some beautiful countryside, of having some interaction up close and personal with bears, getting some good video of bears, and maybe if the right critter walked in front of me, shooting it. And the right critter would have to be a pretty good size, black-colored black bear, or a respectable cinnamon or brown or blondish black bear. We talked about this before. It's not a phase. They don't go through a phase. That is the color they are. In preparation for heading to Ontario, and I am hunting, I did hunt with my Darton crossbow, my Toxin 100 crossbow. And it's been kind of an evolution for me in archery the last few years. I'll be honest, I haven't hunted with a compound in many years. I used to hunt exclusively with a compound. I loved it. I find them to be very effective. I find them to be challenging, to be proficient. You have to practice a lot with them. There's a lot of, if you want, there's a lot of gadgets and do-jiggers and all that kind of stuff on there, a lot of gear that you can put on those things. When I got away from a compound, I actually picked up a recurve. I went back to a recurve. Now, I think that a recurve, or traditional archery in general, is the most beautiful, basic, pure, instinctive form of archery. I loved hunting with that recurve. I found it to be very challenging. And I was fortunate over the years to take a turkey with a recurve. I took a bear with a recurve. Never did take a deer with a recurve. Never did. But the thing about traditional archery is you have to be dedicated to it. You have to shoot a lot, shoot often. In my mind, it was to be proficient enough to know that you have a good chance, that's not a good way to put it, to know that when I let an arrow fly, I was going to make a quick, clean, humane killing shot. I figure that we owe the critters that we're hunting, we owe that to them. And as responsible and ethical hunters, I think the vast majority of us feel that way. In the first year or so I hunted with it, I shot it a lot, and I felt very good about it. But towards the end of the last season, I'm like, man, do I really feel competent and comfortable letting an arrow fly out of this recurve? And the answer was no. I thought, okay, Avery, as much as you like hunting with a recurve, if you can't make that commitment in your mind, what are you doing in the woods with a recurve? And I wish more people would think about that. Whatever it is that you're using, whatever tool you're using to hunt with, if you don't feel good about it, either practice more so you do feel good about it, or switch tools to make it easier. That's what I did. I went back to a crossbow. Now, that was quite a jump to go from a recurve to a crossbow. The recurve shooting, 175, 200 feet per second with a maximum distance of 20 yards for me for an effective shot, to a crossbow that shoots 330 feet per second and I can hit the bullseye on a target at 80 yards. Not that I would shoot an animal that far. But I went back to a crossbow. Now, I find crossbows to be a very, very interesting tool. I first started shooting a crossbow when they were made legal for all hunters in Michigan several years ago. And people started coming out of the woodwork saying, oh, they're a poacher's tool. You're going to wound all these animals, yada, yada, yada. And I thought, you know what? I need to be knowledgeable enough about crossbows to talk about them. So I started using them, and I fell in love with them. In my mind, they are an archery tool because they shoot an arrow tipped with a broadhead. And for the most part, they are a one-shot tool. There is some goofy crossbow out there that allows you to shoot back-to-back shots, but I put that on the fringe. Is it easier to shoot a crossbow accurately? Absolutely. Is it easier because you don't have to draw the bow in the presence of the animal? Absolutely. Absolutely. Are you shooting a faster arrow? Yes. Is it a flatter trajectory? To a point. But you get out at longer distances and that big old heavy arrow, you can call it a bolt if you want, I'm going to call it an arrow, drops. If you look up bolt, a bolt is actually a very short, it almost looks like a dart. I'm trying to think of the actual definition. But you can call a crossbow arrow an arrow and be accurate in that description. So that is my tool of choice these days. You notice I don't say weapon? Because in my mind, whether it's a bow or a gun or a knife, it can be a tool or it can be a weapon. I choose to think of it as tools to harvest animals, or at least go out in the woods and think about harvesting animals. But I get real upset with the archery purists who look down on people who shoot crossbows. I think that is a very short-sighted vision. In our world today, when we need to encourage as many people as possible to get involved in our lifestyle, in our way of life, in our passion of hunting, any tool that allows somebody to get out in the woods and be more proficient, in my opinion, should be looked on favorably. Oh, you're taking the easy way out. Is there something wrong with that? Like in my case, when I realized that I wasn't putting the time into shooting my recurve, and I realized that and decided, okay, what tool can I maximize my time and my efficiency and my effectiveness? Is that bad? Oh, you're wounding animals. No more than anything else. An ethical hunter knows what his distance is, his effective range. He knows what the ethical shot is. And you take a small percentage of hunters who are unethical because a small percentage of people are unethical. It's not going to matter if they're shooting a gun, a crossbow, a recurve, a compounder, whatever. So it's not the tool. It's not the bow. It's a poacher's tool. No, it's not. Who in their right mind would poach deer with a crossbow? I can't even take that one seriously. A true poacher is going to take a .22 mag in the middle of the night with a spotlight. They're not out there with a crossbow. Oh, I just think we should embrace, within reason, right? I mean, we're always going to have this, is an air bow a bow? Is a crossbow that shoots multiple projectiles? We're always going to have this conversation about what is too much. But I think the way crossbows have been accepted and embraced, and you will find some people who go to a crossbow and don't like it, and they go back to a compound. Or even a recurve like I did. But whatever the tool is that will keep you in the outdoors, allow you to be proficient and productive and effective and confident, I say go for it. As long as it's legal, go for it. Now, you will be able, as I say, as you're hearing this show, I am back from Ontario. If you want to see how I did, check out my Facebook page, my YouTube channel, Twitter feed, Instagram. I'll be posting stuff. You'll know. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, we're going to talk about casting crankbaits for king salmon in the rivers. This is the time of year to do that with Tim Roller. In our second hour, Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service in the Sioux talks about targeting Atlantic salmon in the St. Mary's. We'll check in with a couple of folks from the DNR this week's Ask Avery segment. In our third hour, Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods helps us get ready for the hunting season. What's hot, what's new, what's cool, what's legit, what's all hype. And, of course, we'll wrap it up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Port here on WPHM 1380 AM. And let's go north of the bridge. Let's go to Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Boning Archery. Michigan-based Boning has been a leader in the archery industry since 1946. So for more than 3/4 of a century, they have continued to come up with quality products, innovative products you can trust, whether you're a target archer or a bow hunter, as you are heading into the woods this fall. I would bet you have Boning products on your setup. If not, I think you should take a look at them. Check out their website, boning.com. That's BOHNING, boning.com. So what is going on right now this time of year? A lot of people getting ready for hunting season. There's no doubt about that. But there is some phenomenal fishing right now. And it's a cool time of year because some of these fish, like I'm thinking of, salmon and trout, these big fish out Lake Michigan, the Great Lakes. This is the time of year when they come in tight for the small boat anglers around the pier heads, even up in the rivers. Several years ago, there was a guy in Michigan who, in my opinion, kind of, I don't want to say he discovered a tactic or a technique, but he really perfected it and he promoted it. His name is Tim Roller. You know Tim. He's been around the outdoor scene here in Michigan for many, many years. And he discovered this technique of casting crankbaits for kings in the rivers in late summer and early fall. And it has blown up. It has become very, very popular, very, very effective. And Tim is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk more about that. Tim, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Mike. It's been a while. Good to talk to you.
It's been too long. How is your world?
Busy as always, but no complaints. Very good.
Busy's good, though, right?
That's right. That's right.
Tell me how this whole concept of casting crankbaits in the rivers, how did this come about, Tim?
Well, it kind of came out of frustration, really. The prevailed thinking back then, and when I say back then, for me, when I was really starting to try and target these big fish in the river was 30, 35 years ago, was there was a couple schools of thought. One, once the kings came in the river, they wouldn't hit anything. They wouldn't eat. They just stopped. Their mouths became stitched shut somehow. And it never made sense to me. Like, why was it that in the morning guys could catch them in the harbors or out at the pier heads or even in the lake, and hours later, if a push of fish came in and those fish came in the river, all of a sudden they wouldn't snap, right? So that never made sense to me. And what didn't make sense, the second thing, was that nobody was really caring. We were coming off kind of the whole snagging era, good, bad, or otherwise. That's a personal thing, I guess. But I think that promoted a lot of this. We don't have to really worry about trying to catch them. We'll just rip them out. And that was a tactic, and that was a thing that the DNR used basically to get the fish out of the rivers because they were all dying. Well, we've learned an awful lot since then. And so back to your question, sorry, my frustration was I couldn't believe these fish wouldn't go when just a couple hours earlier they were in the lake. And so I just started trying things mimicking what those guys in the harbors, what we would do out there, and bring it in the rivers. And I still remember the first day I really went out there and said, okay, it's all or nothing kind of here. This is what I'm committed to. I'm going to figure this out somehow. It has to work. And the first time it did for me, it was, oh my goodness, it was one of the most incredible outdoor moments I've ever had. I've been fortunate to have a few. And because it was just a realization that, like, wow, this can work. And that first one fish really opened up what ended up being a kind of a career-changing deal for me.
So what tactic were folks, other than snagging, because snagging had been outlawed by then, what, the drift and spawn, or what? How were they trying to catch these fish?
Yeah, guys were doing all kinds of stuff. Snagging, while it was illegal at that point, was, it was still a thing. And there were an awful lot of guys doing it, the legal snagging, if you will. And again, it goes back to I think just the notion that the fish wouldn't do anything. And so you really had to almost try and snag them in the mouth. It's what a lot of guys were doing. And no fault of their own. It was just a pervasive thinking that had been perpetuated for years and years and years of stuff. So,
well, and I think
trying all kinds of stuff.
If I remember right, I mean, the DNR was kind of behind this whole thing too in some ways about they got lockjaw on the river, so this is how we have to catch them.
100%. Yep. 100%. That's where it came from. And like I said, there's been a lot of I don't know if education's the right word, but I think we've just learned an awful lot about those fish since and have kind of given them a chance. And in my mind, there's no finer sport fish in fresh water.
Well, it's one thing to catch a 20-pound king out in Lake Michigan where you've got all the room to, maneuver and let him maneuver and chase him or whatever. You get up in the river, that's got to be a whole different deal.
It's a different animal in the river. Yeah, 20 pounds becomes 50. I mean, that's what it seems like, And some of the rivers, even like the smaller rivers on the west side, like the Pierre Marquette or the White or rivers like that, where it's real small confines and lots of wood, lots of debris, lots of log jams. I mean, it's go hook onto the back of somebody's truck and have them take off down the road and try and stop them. That's kind of what you're dealing with. So it's a fun time.
So now I've got to believe if I went on the river this time of year or the next few weeks here coming up, I mean, a lot of people, a lot of guides, a lot of weekend warriors, they're throwing cranks. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I was getting laughed at for quite a few years, literally laughed at, and now I see it everywhere, and a lot of people doing it, and people will say, "Well, didn't you shoot yourself in the foot?" Well, I mean, for me, it was really I didn't like seeing guys frustrated. I didn't like to see guys snagging because at that point then I knew what was the deal. And so the more we did it, the more people saw its effectiveness. I'd much rather see guys go out there and have a blast with this and catch them fish the way they're meant to be, caught and have a blast doing it.
Well, they didn't laugh at you when you used that technique to catch the new world record brown, did they?
No, well, that was right place, right time, kind of a little bit of an accident. We were targeting kings that morning and had no idea that we'd hooked up on a brown until just before we put it in the net. So that was a little bit of a bonus fish, but it was it was a good one.
Since then, how many years ago has that been now? It's
13. That was 9909.
That's great. That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
It is crazy. And that record's been broken a couple times since then?
Once. It was tied, actually, and then it was broke a couple years ago over in New Zealand.
But still, nobody can take that away from you, that you and your client caught what at the time was a world record fish. I mean, that's something we all think about.
Yeah, and it's still the state record. That fish beat the previous Michigan state record by 5 pounds.
Wow!
And it hasn't been that hasn't been touched yet. So it's still listed as a state record. But yeah, it was a pretty incredible experience, good and bad, But overall, just an unbelievable experience.
And you talk about records here. I'm getting a little bit off track here, but I never thought the Michigan state record king salmon would be broken again. Then last year, Bobby Sullivan goes out there and catches 147 pounds and change. I mean, it's crazy. Mm-hmm. It's crazy what's out there.
And there's bigger ones out there.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a world record brown trout out in that lake. I'm sure there's a 50-pound salmon out there. I have zero doubts about either one of those things. That I don't think people that have grown up in the Great Lakes and whether they're really enthusiastic about fishing or not, I think even being in the business of fishing for decades, you just don't have an appreciation of what kind of a fish factory that is out there and how blessed we are to have that, because it is world class in every sense of the definition.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, I look at myself even, I spend all summer out there chasing walleye on Saginaw Bay, and I'd like to think I don't take it for granted, but I know sometimes I do. You go out there expecting to catch a bunch of fish, and there are people across the country, if they go out and catch 3 or 4 walleye, they're happy.
I had every year, I had people come from all over the world to fish here. I guided people from literally every inch of the world, and it was crazy how they would plan for years. Their dream trip, if you will, their bucket list trip was to come fish steelhead or salmon or trout out of the Great Lakes somewhere in this region. And when you start having that happen consistently over time, it gives you a perspective of really kind of, and these were guys that they traveled all over the place. They could go anywhere.
Yeah.
They wanted to come here and fish.
You're targeting kings in the river. We know that you've at least sometimes caught browns. Anything else you catch while you're up there doing that?
Well, depending on time of the year, as we get later into the fall or earlier into the fall, I guess, depending on how you want to say it, it's a phenomenal technique on steelhead too. I mean, I just switched it over to steelhead as well. And while there's other techniques, we use a lot of different things for steelhead in the fall. The crankbait technique, we tweak it a little bit. We refine it a little bit and towards the steelhead, but it allows us to fish water for steelhead that we can't fish with any other technique. Suspended fish inside the jams and over that, we can get those fish out of there, and they'll rip it just as good as a king does.
I know in the springtime you are very cognizant of the water temp. Is that a factor in the fall at all?
Not really. Early on, when the water's really warm, it'll inhibit fish from coming in, as much. Once that water starts cooling down, and a lot of other factors come into play with that, then that can help. It helps the opposite way in the fall as we get closer to winter and that water temperature really starts crashing. That's when we'll see the fish kind of, start to sedate just a little bit, but it's not nearly as a factor as it is in the spring.
We're talking to Tim Roller. Tim's a name in the outdoor industry here. He was a fishing guide for many years. He had the Whitetail Journey television show for many years. These days, what do we call you? A life coach? What's your? What are you now, Tim? You've reinvented yourself.
What am I? That's a great question. Yeah, what am I? I am. I'm helping all sorts of folks, and again, kind of accidental in how that all came about, but we're just we're helping folks get healthy and really use that. That was something for me in my outdoors. That was a major thing for me, and I needed to address. And when I did, a lot of people noticed, and been able to kind of turn that into just helping folks all over the country now.
Real quick, before I let you go for the break, a website, where do we find you these days?
Facebook's the easiest place to find me. Facebook and Instagram is where that's updated the most. The Whitetail Journey site's still up there, but I'm not real active there.
Gotcha. We're talking to Tim Roller about, well, obviously a lot of different topics, but time is running out on this segment. Have to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Tim about casting crankbaits in the rivers for giant king salmon this time of year. That's right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Alpena on WZTK, that's 105.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe on WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette on WDMJ 1320 AM, just three of our more than 30 Outdoor Magazine radio affiliates. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Rapid River Knives. You know I've got a Rapid River knife in my pocket right now. I always carry one with me. I was saying last week that I let it get a little bit dull. Well, I took care of that. It's got a good edge on it now. Rapid River knives are beautiful, handmade pieces of art designed to be used. Pocket knives, skinning knives, gutting knives, fillet knives, kitchen knives, you name it. Craftsmen there just outside of Rapid River are building these, and they're building one for you. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. Check out the selection. You'll see what I mean. Or better yet, stop by their showroom on US 2 just outside of Rapid River and tell them Avery suggested you stop by. The website, rapidriverknifeworks.us, rapidriverknifeworks.us. We're talking right now with Tim Roller about this whole concept of casting crankbaits in the rivers for giant king salmon. So, Tim, what is this technique? I mean, walk me through it. Is it like casting for bass up by shore? I mean, what do you actually do?
Yeah, that's probably the easiest explanation as far as to get a picture of what it is. The way I did it, and still to this day when I'm doing it, is I don't sit on anchor. I want to cover as much water as I can because you are looking for the most aggressive fish in the river. And that's a whole other conversation. That's dictated by a lot of different things. But it's just a matter of numbers. You got to put this in front of as many fish as you can and find those aggressive fish. And so what I found is I'm constantly on the move. So when I was guiding, I'd be on the oars all the time. And we're just pounding the banks, not randomly. I mean, there were definitely specific spots that I would target. And that was dictated by current flow, that was dictated by depth, that was dictated by maybe springs or creeks, log jams, cover, all kinds of different things where fish like to not only hold, but just rest. There's different, fish do lots of things, especially when they're ascending up the rivers. There's places where they will drop into and they will sit for maybe a day, maybe 2 days. There are other places where they will tuck into and just take a break as they're running. So those are all good places to know. The more aggressive fish are going to be the fish that are tucking in and taking a break because they're also going to grab a bite, if you will, when they're running up, if they're still in that stage. So a lot of factors play into it, but the bottom line is you got to keep moving. You got to pound areas that hold fish, and you're just trying to find the most aggressive fish.
What are you throwing? What bait?
I've tried dozens, if not hundreds of different kinds of crankbaits, stick baits, all those things. And this isn't a plug because I'm not affiliated with anyone, but I just narrowed it down. So for me, it's going to be some sign of a Rapala because of we lost all kinds of fish on stuff that didn't have the tie-through hooks or the wire-through hooks. And so these fish will rip up your equipment. And so a couple bucks more, but pretty worth it when you're putting the fish in the bag. And then there's all kinds of stuff. There's just shad wraps were kind of our go-to, and tried all different colors. The black on silver, the old traditional, the first one was what called the world record brown trout, and probably put more salmon in the bag than any other color that I ever used. Fire tiger is a real popular one. There were 3 or 4. If you looked at my box, I'm not going to tie on more than 4 colors in a day. That's just the way it is, and probably in a typical day, 2 at the most. Because the fish, there's conditions that might dictate a color change here and there, but for the most part, if they're going to go, they're going to go. Longer stick baits, are definitely more effective depending on the river depth, the river we're in, what we're trying to do. If we're coming over a lot of cover, I'll do more of a shallow runner as opposed to the deeper stuff. But pretty basic stuff.
How heavy is the tackle? What weight line?
And the tackle is probably where you're going to want to put your attention with this. I use braid exclusively. So a 20-pound braid is perfect. We occasionally use 30, but 20 was kind of the go-to. A medium heavy action rod. I like a longer, a 9-foot rod seemed ideal. And then spinning reels and people always ask, where do I put my money in this? If you put your money, put it in two places, in your baits, so you're getting quality tackle that it will survive, get the fish to the net. And the other place you want to put it in your terminal tackles and your reel. You got to have a good, smooth drag that's not jerky, but also that you can really, reef down on those fish if you need to. So a good quality reel is essential, and you got to hold some line, because these fish, especially when they're first coming in, they'll just take off and they'll peel line like you can't believe. Do
you need a mono leader at all, or doesn't it matter?
Nope, doesn't matter at all. A lot of guys are like, oh, I got to do mono, I got to do fluoro. Nope, I braid straight to it and hang on.
So what you're saying is this is not a finesse fishery.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, if you're in the water, you're in the game. And it hits the water, reel it, keep it kind of quartering downstream, coming across, keep that rod tip low, and you can mess with the speed. Sometimes the speed of the retrieve will affect things, but when they hit it, the first time you have a king crash a crankbait as you're reeling it in, it will change you. It's that good.
Oh, hang tight, Tim. You make me smile and laugh here in the studio. I love to hear that. We're talking with Tim Roller about casting crankbaits for giant king salmon in the rivers this time of year. Now is the time. And we'll talk more after the break with Tim about this. But, now for the next several weeks, this is the time to be giving this a try. Oh, it sounds like a lot of fun, doesn't it? You've caught kings in a big lake. Try them in the river on a crank. See what that's like. More with Tim Roller right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to the Outdoor Magazine show. My name is Mike Avery. I appreciate you being along with us. You can hear the show on stations all across our great state of Michigan, including in Caro, 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in Iron Mountain, WMIQ 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing destination and your Mid-Michigan Tracker and Angler Quest headquarters. Linwood Beach is Angler Quest Central in my mind. Great people, great facilities, great location, great service. What more can you ask? The website, linwoodbeachmarina.com. That's linwoodbeachmarina.com. Now, I spent all of my summer, not all of it, much of my summer, chasing walleye out there on Saginaw Bay, and I loved it. I love it. But the thing about walleye fishing, and my fishing buddies and I laughed about this all summer long. Flag goes down, board goes back. Is that a fish? Or is that a weed? I have a feeling when you're casting crankbaits in the rivers for 20-pound king salmon, Tim Roller, you don't ask that question, is that a fish?
No, you don't ask that question. You're right.
So what?
Walleye are great, but they're made for one thing, and that's
eating.
Fun.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Exactly. I get it. I get it completely. So when does this fishing kick off, and how late into the fall do you take it?
I always tried to push the window every year, seeing how soon I could get them in the rivers. And every year I could get them in July. Now, I'm not telling you to go out and start chasing them in July, because it's not a thing. Literally, it was like 1 or 2 spots where I knew some fish. There might be a half dozen fish that would come in and sit around certain springs or something, and would try and get one of those fish to go early or late in July. But for the most part, right about this time slot now, end of August, is when it starts pretty good. Now, again, this is dictated by a lot of things, right? So that first big turnover of the lake, when that cold water comes inshore, my gosh, that's when it's going to happen. That's when the first burst of fish is going to come in. And that's, dependent. Some years a little sooner, some years a little later. September is the window. If you're wanting to get serious and give yourself the best chance with the most numbers of fish, September.
And you said it's not inconceivable that you could actually hook into a fish that was in the big lake just a few hours earlier.
Oh, 100%. We did it all the time. Yeah, and I mean, you can tell because those fish are so dime bright. Their fins are just translucent. You can look right through them. Because a lot of those times, them fish will leave their color up. Listen, guys that fish the pier heads or troll around the pier heads, it's not uncommon to catch pretty dark fish out there. And again, a lot of that, as those fish stage, once the conditions get right for them to come in. So when you get them super bright, just look like they're 20 miles offshore fish coming in, those fish were in the lake just hours before that.
And you can continue this right up until what? They're gnarly and moldy and dying?
No, they'll definitely stop once they, we're not fishing anywhere near spawning areas with this, because once some fish focus on spawning, then really at that point it's kind of a done deal. So we're targeting fish as they're coming up before they get into actively spawning. But still, that can go in. There's always early waves of fish. There's always late waves of fish. It was not uncommon for us even to go first week, 10 days of October and have dime bright salmon coming in. Not in the big numbers, but that last wave. Nature does it. It spreads it out. It's just like the rut. Some does come in early, some does come in later. So there's never a catastrophe if it was all centered around a very small time frame and some reason it didn't happen that year and we'd lose a whole age class. So it's spread out. The bulk of it's going to happen at a certain time. And then you've got these shoulder times that still can be really good fishing too, and most people are done.
Speaking of the rut, with all these new ventures you're involved in, you probably don't hunt to the extent you did before, or do you put everything else aside when it gets to be that time of year?
Yeah, I still got to get in a tree. So that was a thing long before I ever got into the outdoors as a business, and it will be my dying day. I'll be doing everything I can to get in the woods. So yeah, that'll never go away.
Illinois, I know you love Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, you're going to be hunting anywhere else you're going?
I drew Kansas this year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so we'll be hunting out there with a good friend of mine, Bohan out there, and not sure when we're going yet. Going to wait and see, kind of just watch conditions and stuff. That's the beauty of flexibility, I guess, and so we're going to try and get out there and see if we can tackle on a big Kansas deer down.
That's the beauty of finding yourself where you are in life right now. You've got a little flexibility.
It ain't bad.
Tim, always a pleasure. Appreciate your insight into Casting Kings and Casting for Kings, and we'll talk again.
I appreciate it, Mike. Take care, buddy.
All right, you as well. Tim Roller, you can find him on Facebook. You can find him on Instagram. Again, when he was guiding, I'll think of it here. Ultimate Outfitters. That's what it was. Ultimate Outfitters. And then he got into Whitetail Journey Television. By the way, he was an Outdoor Magazine pro staffer for a while there. I was blessed with having some great pro staff guys. And now he's helping to make people healthy. And look him up online. You'll see exactly what we're talking about. I was going to say we'll take a break here. Yeah, we'll take a break, all right, for the top of the hour. When you're talking with Tim Roller about fishing, that's how fast time flies. More fishing coming up in hour number 2 as we talk with Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service about chasing Atlantics in the St. Mary's River.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across the great state of Michigan. And by now, you know why I say that. I say that just to make the distinction between radio, outdoor radio, and podcasting. Podcasting is wonderful. It is huge. I encourage you to check out podcasts, to get into podcasting. It's easy to do. You don't need any money. You don't need any gear. You can use your cell phone and you can start a podcast. How cool is that? And as a result, there are a lot of outdoor-related podcasts out there, and some of them are very, very good. But there aren't many statewide, syndicated outdoor radio shows, even across the country, and Outdoor Magazine is one of them. For that, I am truly blessed, and I thank you for helping to make that happen. I encourage you, if you can, to listen to the broadcast version of the show because, for one thing, the radio stations get the content of the program before the podcast is uploaded. But isn't it nice to know that there is a podcast version of the radio show out there if you need it? You can hear that on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com, on my Facebook page, Amazon Music, Audible, Twitter. I'm not even going to go through the whole list. Anywhere you get podcasts from, you can hear the podcast version of the Outdoor Magazine radio show. Even YouTube. I know it's kind of crazy, but it's even on YouTube. I also do monthly podcasts. I love podcasts, like I say. I do monthly podcasts for offshore tackle, Angler Quest boats, Primal Tree Stands, and Polar Craft boats as well. So I would encourage you to check those out. Regardless, though, of how you are listening or when you are listening, again, I really do appreciate it. It's allowed me to stay in this business for what? As Ken Hunter was saying, more than 4 decades now. It is a blessing and an honor to be able to do something that I am still so passionate about, that I still enjoy so much. I know not many people can say that, but I can, and I do not take that lightly. And again, thank you very much. One of the best things about what I do is it allows me to meet and to talk with and to interact and get to know so many very cool people in the outdoors. Jason Carstens is one of those guys. Jason is I don't think I'm talking out of school. He's a firefighter in Sault Ste. Marie, but he's also a great family man. He's a fishing captain. He's an Angler Quest owner. In fact, when he came down from the Sioux last summer, he trailered his Angler Quest all the way from the Sioux down to Saginaw Bay for the Walleye for Warriors event. He took a week off work and came down for the Walleye for Warriors event. How cool is that? Well, that's the kind of guy Jason is. He's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about chasing Atlantics in the St. Mary's and, well, much more this time of year. Jason, welcome back. How are you?
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's here as we're in the studio right now. It's a little cooler. It's not muggy, and it's starting to feel like fall, Jason.
You know, it is. I just got done at camp prepping some food plots and cutting some shooting lanes and stuff, so it's starting to get the itch.
Well, and I got a feeling it doesn't take much for you to get the itch, because you are, I mean, I feel like you're a hardcore outdoorsman.
You know, I just take every blessing and take advantage of every free moment I have, and I mean, there's always something to do. That's what makes it so great.
One of the things I enjoy about following you online is your adventures with your girls.
My little buddy.
They look like they're pretty good with a fly rod too.
Yeah, they get a lot of high fives and atta girls when we're fishing amongst other people, and they even get applauses by some of the tour boats going by sometimes. So it's entertaining.
Tell me about your operation, True North Guide Service.
So I operate out of the Sault Ste. Marie, primarily fishing the St. Mary's River, and my main species that I target after is the Atlantic salmon. Primarily, I am actually fly fishing for them, although during certain times of years or certain time of the year, we will troll for them and all the way out into Lake Huron and elsewhere in the river. Just kind of follow them and their migration. But primarily I'm fly fishing. I'm hooked up to a hydroelectric plant, and we're casting for them. So it's a hands-on event, should I say.
That St. Mary's River is quite a resource, isn't it?
It's amazing. I think there's 80 different species of fish that are residents in this river system. Everything from massive sturgeon and muskie to Atlantic salmon, and we still get a tremendous pink salmon run, which is going to happen real soon. So I'm pretty excited for that.
Forgive me for asking this, but do you guys look down on those pinks?
No, I love them. They're not much for table fare, but I can make your arms sore on 1 to 3 pound fish. It's a riot. That's when it's pink salmon time. That's usually when I have 2 or even sometimes 3 nets in the boat, because it can be a little chaotic sometimes. So.
Now, how do you fish for those?
Well, personally, I like to fly fish for them. They're very aggressive during their spawning run, unlike, say, Chinook salmon that are kind of got a one-track mind and are there to spawn. These pink salmon, they're very aggressive. They're actively eating. And so I can target after what they are eating. So I like to fly fish for them, but you can jig for them. You can cast spinners. Yeah, you can do it all. It's a lot of people like jigging for them with those vibration buzz baits, too. Clay baits. So.
Tell me about the Atlantics. I've never caught one, but I'm fascinated by them.
Mike, I know I've told you before, but they're the future of the Great Lakes salmonoids, I believe. They are so opportunistic. About 80% of their diet is actually invertebrates, is insects. And but they'll either take smelt and even stickleback minnows, which nothing's supposed to like eating. They're a survivor, and I hope the DNR really starts upping the stocking program. They're tremendous fish. They put on one heck of a fight. Every one of them has their own personality. Sometimes you'll get one that spends more time out of the water than it does in the water when you're fighting it. And other times you get ones and they go just straight down to the bottom, and it's a dog fight. I'm trying to get them up with their light gear.
So your population there in the river, the college puts fish in there, right?
The college average is putting in between, they vary between 28,000, which they did this year, to upwards of 40,000 every year.
And is there natural reproduction? Do they reproduce? Do they spawn?
They definitely do have some natural reproduction. It's not sustainable, I don't think, mainly because where all these salmon are released is behind a turbine, behind the hydroelectric plant. And so the fish want to congregate there. If they would release them, in the St. Mary's Rapids, that might promote a little bit more natural reproduction. They
put them upstream from the dam?
Nope. So the fish hatchery is actually inside the hydroelectric facility, and they've got giant raceways in there, and they will basically pull the plug, and it just dumps right out behind the hydroelectric plant.
So are they on a 4-year cycle like kings are?
No. So they're a lot like steelhead in that they can reproduce multiple times. So we'll have some that are mature at 1.5 years, 2.5 years old, and they'll be 3 pounds. And then you'll have some 4.5, 5.5-year-old fish that are mature and spawning, and they're 10 to 20 pounds.
So they fight hard, they taste good, they eat bugs, and they eat bait fish. What is there not to like?
There is nothing not to like about these fish. They put up one heck of a fight. I had a client hook one the other day, and it jumped up next to a boat that was fishing next to us and almost hit the guy that was standing up in the boat. And he's like, if you would have let me know, I would have put the net out and netted them for you. So, and
they jump like Asian carp too. You got everything.
We had one that was 14 and a quarter pounds. Sorry, it's already growing now. It was 14 and a quarter pounds, and it must have been 6 feet in the air. 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
Takes my breath away as the guide, because I want the client to land the fish.
As many have you seen, and they still get you excited. That's pretty cool. Hang tight, Jason. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. We're talking with Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service. You can find him online, True North Guide Service. A really interesting guy. He loves to get people out fishing. He's got 2 young girls that he loves to take hunting and fishing. He's just an all-around good guy. And the way he fishes these Atlantics and others is kind of interesting. I want to talk with him more about that. But first, we got to take a break here on the Outdoor Magazine show. My name is Mike Avery. The website, Mike Avery Outdoors. My email address, Mike at Mike Avery Outdoors. More with Jason Carsten coming up right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Flint on Sports Extra 1330 WTRX. And you can hear us north of the bridge in the Sioux on News Talk 1400 WKNW. In fact, I'll be going through the Sioux here in just a couple of days on my way to White River, Ontario on a bear hunt. Well, by the time you hear this show, I'll be home from that hunt. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Brenton USA Hunting Rifles. AR-style, highly accurate, tough, and dependable hunting rifles that could change the way you hunt and certainly change the way you look at ARs. They're made in Lansing, just down the road from the governor's office, which I think is hilarious. Mine is a 350 Legend. I'm going to use that gun on my Michigan bear hunt. My grandson Carter is going to use it for the youth hunt. I'm really excited. Now that I'm in real time here, back home from my White River hunt, I'm really looking forward to spending some quality time with that gun, to become familiar with it, to get it broken in, to get it sighted in and ready to rock. You can save $100 on a Brenton hunting rifle. Go to the website, BrentonUSA.com, BrentonUSA.com. Use the promo code Avery, and you'll get $100 off. See, I'm saving you money right there. BrentonUSA.com. While you're online, please check out my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Then do a search for True North Guide Service. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. True North Guide Service is the guide service of Captain Jason Carstens, who's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Jason, talking about bear hunt. Didn't you get a bear tag this year?
I did. I am, when we get done, I'm off to go bear baiting.
Have you got any cameras out yet?
I do. I haven't pulled the card yet. I've just been baiting for just a couple of days, and excited to always have that suspense when you're walking up to see if the logs have been moved, and then it's a long walk back to the truck so you can check out.
Exactly. So as this show airs, the weekend of the 20th and 21st, I got to believe this is starting to get into a pretty good time to be fishing with you, isn't it?
It is. The pink salmon, this is going to be a big pink salmon year, so I'm pretty excited for that. I've got a few openings yet, but I'm starting to fill up, and it's fun. It's a nice transition. There's still Atlantic salmon around, but I take advantage of this short window of the pink salmon run. It's kind of going to be starting about, say, the 21st until second week of September, till bear season for me.
Yeah, pinks. Now, is this the same pink I saw in Alaska? They get a color to them, and they get a humpback and a hook jaw?
Yes, absolutely. They're the exact same fish. These fish generally tend to be a little bit smaller than the ocean run fish, just like, all of the other salmonoids. But they're the same fish. They get absolutely beautiful, kind of green on the back and real white bellies. And the males will get the big predominant hump on their back as well.
I think they're a pretty fish.
They are, and they are an absolute riot to catch. They are just loads of fun. I mean, there's days where I'll have 2 people in the boat, and I get out the fish counter, and we're looking at 60 fish and a few hours of fishing. I mean, there's times when it gets thick, it's almost every cast. So it's a lot of fun.
And you said something in our first segment too. You said you're hooked up to the dam. I mean, that's a significant statement. You are physically tied up to the dam, right?
Yep. We have a grappling hook that we are very lucky and fortunate to be allowed to hook up to the Cloverland electric powerhouse hydro dam, and people hook up next to each other, and there's just kind of a nice friendly etiquette that we share the area, and it's a good time. I mean, there's times during peak of summer for the Atlantics where there's 30 boats, and they're all in about a 200-yard stretch.
I still can't get over the fact that they let you hook up to that dam. That's kind of a rarity these days.
It really is. There's 3 other electric hydro dams in the St. Mary's right there in the Sioux Harbor area, and you're not allowed to touch any of those. So we're very thankful that they still allow us to do it, and I think part of it is because we have so much security around that it's always being watched, should I say.
Yes, I do know what you're saying. And now, let's see. The international border goes right down the middle of the river, doesn't it?
Not quite the middle of the river, but yes, it's just kind of a dividing line, and you got to have your GPS to know where you're at, and that's always important so that you can follow the different seasons and regs, because Sioux, Ontario's Atlantic season, for instance, ends on September 30th, but it's open year-round for Michigan.
So do your clients routinely get American and Canadian licenses?
No. They are almost all American licenses because that's really where I fish. Not to say that there's not fish on the Canadian side. There very much so is, especially in the rapids. They like going up in there, too.
So you're hooked up to the dam. You're throwing flies. What if I'm not a fly fisherman? What if I'm a spinning guy?
The unique thing about this is I can do it with a spinning rod. Probably about half the people there are actually using spinning rods or even center pin rods. You can target these fish in whatever fashion you like and whatever you're comfortable with. That's the really unique and fun thing to do with this. I mean, in the spring, I'm trolling lead core for them.
In the river?
Yeah, in the river. Yep, in the river and out into Lake Huron too.
Really? Oh, yeah, because that's right. Because you've got a shipping channel right there.
Yep, I'm actually sitting out in front of it right now. So kind of drooling that I don't have my Angler Quest with me right now.
Well, you talk about Angler Quest. Now let's see, your license. You're running that for trips now, right?
I am. I have a 22-foot pro fish with a T-top on it. I went with the T-top because I do so much casting, not just trolling. So, and it is a heck of a fishing platform.
And that's interesting because, I use mine for trolling. I think of it as a trolling platform. If I was doing what you are, I would get the pro fish, and it seems like the perfect rig.
It is. It's one of the best decisions I ever made was getting that. I was hesitant and nervous whether or not I'd be able to use it for the style of fishing that I have. But I put my girls on it with me, and we went and we tested it out and fell in love with it from day one. And it fishes just as good as my little boats that I've had in the past. It's a heck of a platform, and it's a nice, comfortable ride for the clients, that's for sure.
And how was it when you brought it down to the bay for the Walleye for Warriors event? How was it out on Saginaw Bay?
Oh, it handles like a dream. I can honestly say it's the best handling boat I've ever had. And I've had everything from Lunds to Sea Rays to G3s. So it is a heck of a platform. Definitely a conversation starter from people that haven't seen them up here as much in the UP as that you do down there in Saginaw Bay area.
So what is your setup? I mean, do you keep the boat in the water? Do you splash it every morning? And how far is the run to the dam?
I splash it every morning. I trailer it back to my house. It loads and trailers just as easy as any other boat. I've only have about a 2-mile run from the boat launch to the dam where I'm primarily fishing. But I've got about a 50-mile run in the spring when I'm fishing for the Atlantics, trolling down here in Lake Huron.
So you said you got pike and muskie and sturgeon. I mean, do you target sturgeon? Is there? You could do so many different types of trips there if you had the time. I think, Jason.
I have not dabbled into it a little bit. I've thought about it, but my summers are pretty much taken up with the Atlantic salmon. That's really the fun window then, and taking advantage of the nice weather. But I do some lake trout jigging as well, and so that kind of is a nice break up from fishing for the Atlantic. So. And
then, how late into the fall you fishing, Jason?
I usually fish into October, and that's about as late as I can stand it before I really get the itch to get in the tree stand. So, usually start in April for perch, and then for the Atlantics, and that goes all the way until October.
All right, so forgive my ignorance here. Does the river freeze up, or does it stay open below the dam? Could you actually physically fish it if you wanted to?
No, typically we do freeze up. There's select spots that don't freeze, some of our real heavy current areas, but we generally freeze over every year.
Gotcha. All right, and before I let you go then, what's your setup for bear hunting? Are you gun hunting, you bow hunting, what?
It's going to depend on the site that has a bear that I want to try to target. More than likely it'll be gun because I'm trying to set it up a little bit farther away for a ground blind so that my girls can be with me, so I don't have to do a tree stand. So more than likely it's going to be a ground blind with bait, and looking to have some fun and make some memories for sure.
And how many different bait sites are you starting with so you get a feel for what's going on?
I've got 3 going right now, so we're keeping my fingers crossed. I have some high hopes and excited. It's been a 10-year wait.
Yeah, so. You're due. You're ready.
Yeah, I am. So.
All right, Jason, always a pleasure. You and I, we'll talk again very soon, as you know, but I would encourage people to check out check you out online, True North Guide Service on Facebook and Instagram. Is there a TrueNorthGuideService.com, by the way?
No, there is not.
Okay, so Facebook and Instagram, the way to go?
Yes, it is. Reach on there and you just send me a message, and I'll send you my phone number, and we can sit down and talk and tailor a trip for what you want.
Perfect. Jason Carstens of True North Guide Service. You can find him online at True North Guide Service. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, got to check in with the DNR. They got something they want to talk about, and then we'll wrap up the hour with this week's Ask Avery question. It's about bear hunters and the license you need and what you don't need here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Tawas on WIOS, 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. By the way, twice each weekend in Tawas. Thank you. Appreciate that. You can hear the show in Traverse City on WTCM, 580 AM. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, the Riviera of the North, on WCHT, 600 AM, 95.3 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why spend a whole bunch of money on several different sets of hunting gear, clothes? Why not buy one good quality set and then snap on and zip on the outer liner to change from snow camo to blaze orange to waterfall or whatever. The website is versaskins.com. That's versaskins.com. By the way, if you're going to be at the Woods and Water Show in Emily City, that first weekend, what is it, September 9th-ish, 10th-ish? Yeah, 9, 10, and 11. The folks from Versaskins will be there, so you can see them in person. Again, the website, versaskins.com. I want to turn our attention now to Eric Hilliard of the DNR. Eric is a guy who helps me set up our bi-weekly DNR interviews, but I rarely get a chance to talk with him directly. Well, guess what? This time around, he is the subject. He's the man, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Eric, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, Mike. Thanks. It's always good to talk to you in these limited opportunities that we have together.
I know. We don't talk very often. Real quick, I don't want to get too far off track, but what is your job? What's your role there in the department, Eric?
So my regular job is I'm the digital media production specialist for the Wildlife Division, so I handle the production of the podcast. I do graphic design and things like that, video production. Right now I'm kind of filling in as the acting manager of the Public Outreach and Engagement Unit, and then eventually I'll go back to my normal job.
I love that podcast, by the way. You guys do a great job.
Oh, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
And you're also the guy who announces the winners of the Pure Michigan Hunt, so I want you to get busy with that one because so far you keep letting me down.
You know, I keep looking for your name every year, and every time it comes in, one of these days, Mike, just keep on entering. One of these days, you're bound to be a winner.
I will keep trying that. All right, Eric, so what's the topic at hand this week?
So the topic at hand is the Michigan Deer Cooperator patch. Can you believe that it's the 50th anniversary of the Michigan Deer patch?
No, actually, I can't. That's shocking.
Yeah, the first one came out in 1972, and this year the winner with the special 50th anniversary design was by Mr. Brian Shaw from Spring Arbor, Michigan, who created the 2022 patch design. And we're going to have all the information about that as well as an image of the new patch up online at michigan.gov/deer, so people can check that out. And we're going to be doing things a little bit differently this year in how you can get the patch. So typically, people have brought their deer into Deer Check and they've gotten a patch in the past. And I know I've had questions, especially as we've had more limited locations for Deer Checks in recent years, where people are saying, can I just buy a patch online and you can send it to me so I don't have to drive an hour? Well, this year, starting this year at michigan.gov/DNR licenses, people will be actually able to buy them through the e-license system. Now, we'll still have some limited quantities out in the field for where we're doing disease surveillance for TB and CWD. But for $8, people will be able to go on, buy a patch, and have it sent right to their house. That's including shipping. That's including everything. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, with the online deer registration this year, I was wondering about that as well.
Yeah, and we do get questions sometimes where people say, if I submit my deer registration online, will you guys send me a patch automatically? And the problem with doing that is, I'm sure that most hunters would, abide by the rules on that. But there is a concern that some people might, towards the end of the season, if they hadn't filled a tag, to go ahead and submit a deer that wasn't actually harvested to get that. So from a data integrity standpoint, we want to make sure that we're keeping the data good so that the data that we're giving to hunters and to the NRC for setting regulations is as accurate as possible.
Sure.
So, like I said, we're still going to have some of those patches out in the wild there at some of those locations where we're collecting heads and things, and those patches we'll just give to the hunters for free. But anybody else, can certainly go online and purchase that for $8 and have it delivered right to their door.
So is there somewhere a collection or a display of every one of these patches from every year?
So, yes. So actually in Lansing, in a locked case behind glass, we have patches from every year going all the way back to 1972.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Is there a market? I mean, do people collect these? Are there? Is it a thing that people go online and say, "I'll give you a 72 for a 68 or whatever"?
Yeah, well, I mean, the old patches, certainly the ones going back to 72, those ones tend to sell for a fairly good price. There are certainly some what we would call bootleg patches out there where people have done reproductions of the patch, and so they're not ones from the DNR. So certainly if anybody's looking on eBay or some of those sites, they probably want to be somewhat cautious. But Yeah, it's not uncommon to see these going for, $20 or $40 online in previous years for the people that maybe didn't have a chance to get to a check station to get one. So really, $8 is kind of a bargain to be able to buy it directly from Michigan.gov/DNR licenses.
All right, so Michigan.gov/deer and Michigan.gov/DNR licenses, right?
Yep.
All right, Eric, always a pleasure. Appreciate your time. We'll talk again.
Yep, you take it easy, Mike. It was nice talking to you.
Same here. I will do my best to take it easy. You can count on that. All right, we'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, this week's Ask Avery question deals with a no-kill bear tag. What is the purpose of a no-kill bear tag? We're going to find out by talking with Lieutenant Jason Wicklund of the DNR after the break. And then coming up in our third hour, Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods helps us get ready for the upcoming hunting season. What's hot, what's legit, what's hype, all that and more coming up here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97, 98, 98.7 WLDN. And you can hear us in the Thumb on WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by Security Credit Union. They can help you with your next outdoor adventure. They love working with outdoorsmen and women. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. And I really appreciate them making the Ask Avery segment possible. It's become a pretty popular part of the show because it's a chance for you to get involved in the content. And that's what Josh did this week. Josh didn't give me his last name, but he sent me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com, which is the best way to get these questions to me, Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And it's an interesting question. It's about a no-kill bear tag. Now, this is kind of a long question, so I will edit as we go along. Josh says, what is the purpose of a no-kill bear tag? The 2022 DNR Bear Digest on page 14 says it's for people who do not have a bear hunting license, who accompany a licensed bear hunter on a bear hunt and possess a firearm, crossbow, or bow. Does this allow the no-kill tag hunter to also shoot at a bear, similar to party hunting that's legal in other states? If not, why bring a weapon? Since is the sole purpose for protection? If so, do I really need a $15 license to protect myself? I don't know the answer to this, of course, but I know where to look. This time around, Lieutenant Jason Wicklund of the DNR joins us in person on the phone line to answer this. Lieutenant, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thanks, Mike. Great to be back.
All right, so what's the answer? What is the purpose of a no-kill bear tag?
So that no-kill bear tag, you're right. There's a lot of parts to that. So it used to be a participation license, and it was given. You had to have that to be doing anything that involved chasing or pursuing of bear or locating bear. And prior to 2014, it was tough to enforce because a lot of people ride along and they're not doing anything, but they just happen to be there, and they would need a license to do that. So in 2014, we amended that to specifically identify who's participating and would need that license, and that's anybody possessing a firearm, crossbow, bow, or arrow, or anyone who's owner of any dogs. So that restricted the people that would need that tag, and which is good. Now other people that came along to assist or photograph or whatever wouldn't have to have a license. And the part with the $15 is, you have to understand that during the hunting seasons, open seasons, and you're in the woods frequented by game and you're carrying a weapon, you have to have some type of license. So that $15 allows a person to be carrying a weapon in the woods, and during a season when there's game lawfully could be taken, although it doesn't afford that person the opportunity to kill the bear. The reason why they're allowed to carry a weapon and the $15 is because bears are unpredictable animals, and when you're in there participating in a bear hunt and you're in the swamp and you have bears that could possibly be wounded or trying to escape from dogs or human pressure, that gives them an opportunity to defend themselves. Now they can't shoot that bear unless they're trying to kill that bear because they're in fear for their life, or they're
or their dogs
attacked or something, or their dogs.
Yeah.
Somewhere along those lines, you'd have to articulate. But just party hunting's still illegal in Michigan. You just can't shoot a bear because you see a bear. You have to be licensed for that season. And so that's kind of the Cliff Notes version of why that is. You need a license to be in the woods carrying a firearm, and that $15 is that license to be in the woods.
It seems like we're talking primarily about hound hunters here, right?
Correct. So that's that no kill or participation license applies to the hound hunters.
Now, all right. So let me throw a little bit of a curveball into here. If I'm in the woods and I've got a CPL, doesn't my CPL supersede the hunting license?
The CPL is not if you're out there hunting with a handgun, depending on what kind of handgun you're using, it's restricted to what you can use for those animals. So just like archery, you can have a CPL and carry a handgun. You just can't use a handgun to dispatch a deer or shoot a deer with that handgun. So the same thing with the CPL during bear seasons. I mean, a lot of guys do carry pistols, and they carry 357s or 44 Magnums, and that's what they carry because they want the stopping power for a bear. But once again, the license is a opportunity to be participating in the hunt, and it affords you to carry a weapon in the woods during a season when game is open. So, CPL is completely different. Last
quick question for you: if a no-kill license holder, do they have to wear blaze orange? Are they considered a hunter then?
If they're in the woods and they got a weapon, it's small game or whatever, they should wear orange. If they don't have a weapon, they're just participating, I strongly recommend people wear orange. It's just a safety thing. When you're in the woods with bears run towards swamps, they run into thick areas. Having people in that woods wearing hunting clothes and everything else is a recipe for disaster. So if anybody's out there, I encourage them to wear orange. If you're going to be carrying a weapon, you have to wear orange. The only exception would be archery hunting bear. But so everybody needs to wear orange out there. Be safe so you can come home at the end and enjoy the hunt.
All right, Lieutenant, appreciate your time. Lieutenant Jason Wicklund answering this week's Ask Avery question, as he often does, and I certainly do appreciate that. Also appreciate our friends from Security Credit Union for making each week's Ask Avery segment possible. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. Charlie, I'm showing 15. Is that right? Okay. All right, so we'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our third hour, we're talking with Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Eider Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons and Polar Craft Boats, the Forward Corporation, Primal Tree Stands, Security Credit Union, Garber Chevrolet, Brenton USA Hunting Rifles, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. More than 30 stations across our great state. And for 3 hours each week, I'm here at this microphone talking about the great outdoors, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping and wildlife issues and conservation issues and even some wild game cooking. And coming up at the end of this hour, wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar will be joining me with another great recipe. We're doing some time shifting in the studio this week. I'm getting ready. As we're recording the show, I'm recording ahead of time because I'm heading to White River, Ontario, Canada on a bear hunt. So it's always interesting for me to do these time shifting experiences where we're recording basically a week and a half ahead of time. So if in this show this week, say there was something big that happened in the news, or some kind of a surprise decision on the consent decree negotiations or another new state record salmon, and I didn't talk about it, it's because It hasn't happened yet. So it's always kind of challenging for me to be here in the studio talking about topics that are a week and a half out. Although this is an easy topic for me because my brain is shifting kind of from a fishing mode into a hunting mode. Got a couple of bear hunts, 2 bear hunts coming up this year. Very excited about that. Of course, deer season here in Michigan. I'm not much of a deer hunter anymore, but I will be out there just to participate in the experience that is deer hunting in Michigan. I am going down to Ohio to hunt with my buddy Bill Piles of Ohio Bow Hunting Outfitters as well. So I'm starting to get myself in a hunting mode. And I found the other day as I was starting to look around and say, okay, what do I need to take to Ontario with me? There is a process here, right? You know, my fishing gear is still all on the Angler Quest. It's sitting there at the dock, and it will get used again. But I've got these hunting things that have been stashed away since the spring turkey season. Now I got to get my hands on them. I've got to, what do I need for this trip? Thermocells, flashlights, blinds, all that good stuff. For me, it's an interesting exercise. But for a guy like Bill Hahn, it's his job. Bill is the buyer for the hunting department at Jay's Sporting Goods. He is the guy who decides what goes on the shelves. I think it's a very big job, and obviously for Jay's, it's a critical job. Bill's a great guy, and he's a hardcore hunter as well, so he's got that experience. And he's with us now, actually, on the Outdoor Magazine phone line to talk about this process. What's hot for the fall, what's legit, what you need, and maybe what you don't need. Bill Hahn, welcome back to the show. How are you, buddy?
Great, Mike. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
It is. It's always a pleasure for me to talk to you as well. As I say, you're just a great guy. You've got a wealth of knowledge, lots of information. And I got to believe, Bill, in your own world, you're starting to think about hunting season too, aren't you?
I am. I truly am. I'm headed to Arizona next month for a archery mule deer hunt, which I'm really excited about. So this last weekend, in that 90-degree humid Saturday, I was trudging around Saginaw at the R100 archery shoot, trying to prepare and do some reps, so I'm in shape for the bow hunt coming up. Now,
when I hear Western mule deer archery hunt, I'm immediately thinking 60, 70, 80-yard shots.
They told me to be prepared to shoot 60 yards. 60. So hopefully I can get one closer than that, but I've been practicing and I feel confident at that distance, but I'll certainly take one closer if possible.
Yeah, I'm thinking at 60 you're not going to be shooting your recurve, are you?
No, sir. No. This is a little more current, high tech, high speed stuff I'm working with right now.
I've never done no, I have. I've done Western deer hunts, but they've been whitetail hunts. I've never been on one of these mule deer hunts, but I'm fascinated by this concept of making these extreme, well, I'm going to call them extreme long-range archery shots. You've got to be prepared. You've got to put a lot of work into this, don't you, Bill?
You do, and hopefully I've done enough. I never feel like I have. Just the physical demand and also just being proficient with my bow to, you owe it to the animal as an ethical hunter to do your due diligence and just be prepared. So I'm a little nervous, frankly, but excited as well. And I am putting the work in. So hopefully that culminates in an opportunity.
Well, good luck. And I look forward to seeing you, a picture of you sitting over a big Western muley.
I appreciate that.
So Bill, your job there at Jay's is what?
I do all the purchasing for our hunting departments for both our locations, and it's a pretty broad category anymore. It seems to have evolved in the last 15 to 18 years to, game cameras really didn't exist 20 years ago. The box blinds didn't really exist 20 years ago, the prefab ones. So there's a lot of new things in the category, just deer nutrition, food plot seed, all those things have, it's become a year-round endeavor for the enthusiast and for the person that wants to develop their habitat and be good stewards of the land and good stewards of the animals.
Well, I have asked you this before, and I will ask you this again in the future. How do you make the decision about all the different products that are out there? How do you decide what's going to get that valuable space on the shelves or on the racks at Jay's?
Well, aside from the dartboard in my office and the dice that I roll, no, sorry, just kidding. It's time spent researching, just dealing with the category for 25 years now for me. You've seen some of the nuances and the growth and evolution of hunting, and people are developing a better mousetrap all the time. When I'm sure, like you, when I sit in my tree stand, I'm always thinking, man, if I just had this would help me in this situation, or this could increase my chances or make my life easier when I'm in the field. So I think all those things come together as a hunter, as a user, and not just as a business guy who's trying to do his best for the company. But I want to give our customers truly the best stuff that's out there at the best possible price. I know, I think I tell you this every time, but my mission hasn't changed, and neither has Jay's. That's always our goal, just to make people successful in the field. And at the end of the day, we sell fun. We want you to have fun with the things that you're passionate about, because we're passionate about them too. And in that case, it makes it very easy.
You would have to be, rephrase that, I guess. The fact that you are a hardcore hunter, it helps out tremendously, because, as you say, you get these experiences in the field. You know what works. Well, do you know what works? When somebody comes to you with a new product and it's not a proven product yet, how do you know if it's going to be the real deal or if there's just a bunch of marketing hype dollars behind it?
Well, let me, first of all, I appreciate you referring to me as a hardcore hunter. I don't know what that is, but I try to get out in the field as much as I can.
How about passionate participant? That's how I describe myself.
That's probably a little more truer to form, because I don't know how good I am, but I enjoy getting out there and doing it.
Exactly. That's my point. Yep.
I guess back to your question here. I found things that have worked for me. If I've been on a hunt and I used product X, and I had a response from that deer that I know is a direct correlation to me using that product in the correct way, that trips something in my head that's like, wow, this isn't just a gimmick. This does really work. Marketing is a powerful tool, and in a lot of cases, you could even have a mediocre product in some respects, and you put enough dollars behind it, you're going to move the needle. You're going to get sales on it.
Yeah.
But when you couple that with a really good product, which there are a ton of good products out there, some don't have the marketing dollars behind them to drive them. So hopefully that's why our staff is passionate as I am, and in many cases more so. But we talk about this stuff together. We compare notes. We share field experience, and we talk about, hey, I know this product. I know the people that produce this. I know how they produce it, where their deer farm is, or whatever goes into the product. But they're not going to put something out there that is not the best it can be. And in this day and age, when you have big, huge corporations buying up these smaller companies, you really, I think, have to weigh that in too, because if you have a big private equity, let's say, buying up a small mom and pop, that was their passion, their heart was in that. Well, when you take the heart out of something, sometimes it dies. It'll always die, actually. So my point is, having a company that is dedicated to preserving that heritage of that product is important, and that's where I think some of the finer nuances come in to really help navigate that for our customers today in this world.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, Bill, and I appreciate that insight. We're talking with Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods. The website, jaysportinggoods.com. That's jaysportinggoods.com. You know Jay's. Outdoor superstore, family-owned, Michigan-based, 2 stores, 2 superstores, one in Clare, one in Gaylord. Long-time partners and friends of mine. I've been working with Jay's since I've been in business, and I will continue to work with Jay's as long as I'm in business, as long as they want me. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, I want to talk to Bill more obviously about, gearing up for the season. What do we need? What's hot? What's on his radar screen? The hot categories, the hot names, all that good stuff. That's after the break with Bill Hahn right here on Outdoor Magazine. can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. Powerful, a blowtorch of a station, and that's a good thing. And you can hear us in Holland on WHTC, 1450 AM and 99.7 FM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by MUCC's On the Ground program. OTG is a program to improve habitat for fish and wildlife across the state. For details, check out the Michigan United Conservation Club's website, mucc.org. That's mucc.org. And a reminder, if you want to save 25% on signing up to become an MUCC member for the first time, use the promo code MIKE, all caps, M-I-K-E, and you can become a member for 25% off. And it's not expensive to begin with, so that's a pretty darn good deal. While you are online, I would also encourage you to head on over to my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I'm also on, by the way, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I do a Wednesday night live on my social media outlets every Wednesday night at 7. Every Wednesday morning at 8:45, I do a Behind the Mic segment from here in the studio. And then while you're online, of course, head on over to jsportinggoods.com. Now, jsportinggoods.com has a lot of products there. But if you want to see the real deal, head on into one of the stores. Go into the Claire store or the Gaylord store. And it's like an outdoor paradise. If you're a hunter or an angler, or you like to camp or shoot or trap, it's like, this is where I need to be. One of the reasons Jay's is so well stocked is Bill Hahn. He's the buyer for the hunting department, which encompasses everything these days. And as you can bet, it's a busy time of year. Although, Bill, you said before the break there really is no slow time anymore, is there?
No, it's a year-round endeavor anymore, and that's good job security for me.
There you go. Hey, listen, what about product availability? For the last couple of years, that has been a problem. How's that going?
You know, it was. The last 2 years were very challenging. So I got aggressive and took some risks, and I allowed some stuff to come in late in the year last year, in November and December, where I normally wouldn't, to ensure that I had stuff for this year. So that's paid off, and it was a little bit of an investment to hold that inventory over. But all that aside, we have inventory, and maybe not everybody else does. Wonderful.
Nice move, Bill.
Well, I had to do some convincing to the higher-ups to say, let me try this, please.
So listen, what's on your radar screen? What's hot for this fall hunting season?
Great question. One of the newer categories, it's an older one, but it's kind of been revitalized, is saddle hunting. And I think we touched on that maybe in another conversation, but we've done 2 in-store teach and train events with 2 of our premier partners in that space, and both went very well, and the sales continue to grow. So more and more people are wanting to experiment with this mobile hunting, ultralight, run and gun, if you will, style of bow hunting, and even gun hunting in some cases, with the saddle concept.
I look at that and I'm saying, okay, that's a young guy's game, right? Primarily, I would think. Young guys in shape are the ones scampering around the trees like this, or not really?
I think that's what most people think, and I tend to agree with that too, because I'm not a spring chicken and I'm not in the best shape, but I have one, and I'm starting to practice with it right now, and I'm going to try to use it this fall. I'm a little intimidated, frankly.
Yeah.
With anything, you can go to an extreme, and there's some guys out there that are one sticking, meaning they have one small independent step section, and they tie off to the tree, and they use this, they kind of caterpillar their way up the tree with this stick, and they rappel down. That's not for me at this point. But we do have stuff for that customer that wants to get that hardcore, if you will, with it. So it's a growing category, and it's exciting, and people are really gravitating to it.
And I do think it's exciting. Again, it's not for me, but I get it. I get the appeal. I mean, John Eberhardt's been talking about this for a while, and the possibilities, the options that it opens up for you are, again, pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And that's the name of the game. I think it's going to give people different opportunities with this particular setup than they would with a traditional tree stand.
What else you liking, Bill?
Habitat development is something that is constantly growing, and I think more people are embracing it and investing in their property and becoming that year-round enthusiast and stewards of the land and the animal. So one thing I wanted to touch on, if I had a moment, was, people are familiar with food plots, people are familiar with creating bedding areas and sanctuaries on their property, but one constantly overlooked part of that equation is water. People want to feed deer, people want to plant food plots and give them nutrition, but if you don't have water on your property, guess what? They're going to go somewhere to get it. So one of the things that I'm really excited about are the people are going either to various farm type stores and bearing a tank, or we're offering a really cool product that you can put on your property that is a very natural looking, water station for the deer. And when they're rutting and running hard, they have to have water. They'll go without food before they'll go without water.
So is this above ground? You just lay it out there somewhere? Or describe it for me.
Yeah, it is above ground, but you can actually dig it down in a little bit. It reminds me of like a concrete mixing trough, if you will. It's about 6 feet by 4 feet, or a little bit larger than that, and it holds about 80, 90 gallons of water, and it's sloped, so if a critter gets into it, it can get back out, and it won't freeze. I mean, if it does freeze, it won't crack the tank because of the slopes on the side. So, and it's very natural looking. It's not like putting a bright blue kiddie pool out in your middle of your food plot, which I've seen guys do, and they're successful with too. So, what do I know?
Yeah, whatever. No, this is interesting. I like this. What else?
Aside from the habitat development and saddles, the mobile cellular cameras have just constantly, every year, the bottom just keeps dropping out as far as what you're getting for the dollar. So the customer that wants to monitor their property or their cottage or just see what the deer are doing, he can do it cheaper than ever with more features than ever. So that's an exciting. There's multiple brands we stock. I mean, because it's just constantly growing, and people are putting more and more cameras out all the time, and the data plans are very easy to use and very inexpensive now.
Every year when we talk about this, I'm just shocked and amazed at how these things have improved and how the prices are dropping.
I can't believe it. Feasibly, you can buy a really, really good cellular trail camera this year for under $150, and in some cases, $120.
All right, so give me a brand name. What is a really good cellular trail camera?
Well, Tacticam has done a very good job with their marketing, but with a good product to back it up. So that's one that is continuing to do very well with us. The guys at Stealth Cam do a phenomenal job there. They have a couple different price points, a couple different feature sets on their cameras. Covert's another one that has a very aggressive price on their camera. And you can get more high tech too. You can put 16 cameras on one system with one cell plan with the folks over at Cuddyback. So there's so much to talk about, and it's hard to touch on just in a minute or two.
Sure.
But if I got you in the store, I could give you the whole tour.
If you get me in the store, I'm walking out with one of them or a couple. I know that.
That's my job.
So what do you obviously don't get the cell plan from the camera company. You get it from the cell company, right?
Well, that used to be the case, but now these camera companies have gotten, the cellular camera companies have gotten so much smarter in this, because at one time you had to go down to your local cellular provider, try to explain to them what you were trying to do, and you'd have some kid behind there who all he does is sell cameras, and he wouldn't understand what you were asking for. So long story short, now the camera companies broker data themselves, and you buy the camera, you go onto their website, register the camera, pick your plan, download the app, and it's that easy. There's no third-party stuff anymore. They do all the heavy lifting for you.
Oh, that is very cool. And to be able to monitor your hunting property real time has opened up a lot of exciting options.
It has. It's also caught a lot of trespassers and a lot of people that are doing, bad things on your property too. So it's, from a security standpoint, it's so much better because you're getting real-time notifications in some cases.
So under your responsibility there at Jay's, I mean, do you buy the knives and such? Are you the guy who got Rapid River into the store?
I am. That's one of my favorite categories. I'm kind of a knife nerd, and Chris at Rapid River, Durston has become a super great friend of mine. In fact, we talked about getting together this fall and doing a hunt up at his place. Knives are a passion of mine.
Wow.
And I'm very proud of our selection. We have more in inventory than we've ever had in the history of Jay's right now, just to put that out there. But I'm excited because we're on the cutting edge, no pun intended, of the knife category. If it's hot, we probably have it.
A few years ago, what was it? I don't want to call them switchblades, but mechanical knives. Those were hot because they became legal. Are those still a thing anymore?
Yeah, the auto knives, and especially the out the fronts, the OTFs we call them, that have a push button where the blade actually deploys, springs out of the front instead of a side swing open. That category is still strong. Now, I think the mad rush was over when everybody could finally get one legally. There was a rush to do that, but the sales haven't really slowed. So. Guys are carrying them as their everyday carry fidget type item because they're just fun and cool to play with, but they also are very practical and very tactical, and they work.
Do you also buy tree stands and ground blinds?
Yes, I do.
Ladder stands, I got to believe, are hot. Ground blinds are hot because as we get older, we're less inclined, most of us, to go up a hang-on stand anymore.
I think you're exactly right, and that we've seen that the past number of years. Ground blinds, ladder stands, and box blinds. Guys are investing in the big dollars to really enjoy their property. So I think our hunting demographics have aged. But the exciting part, back to the saddle thing just for a moment, is that's kind of capturing that younger guy too. So not everybody has the $3,000 to invest in a really nice shadow hunter blind to put on their property that they're going to have there for 20 or 30 years and take their kids, grandkids, and everything else. But the guy that wants to be mobile, he's got something cool that he can really do too. But the ground blinds are just incredible. We're actually on pace to do what we've done last year so far with box blinds. And again, I have more box blinds in stock right now than we've ever had in the history of Jay's Sporting Goods at one time. So we're loaded, and I'm excited about the brands that we're partnering with and the features that we have.
Well, Bill, you do a great job of getting great products in the store there. Good luck on that Western hunt, and I will look forward to seeing a picture of you sitting over that big muley, and we will talk again soon. Bill Hahn of Jay's Sporting Goods, jsportinggoods.com, jsportinggoods.com. We'll take a break, a few more thoughts, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us just down the road on the coastline, Muskegon, WKBZ 1090 AM. Let's go to the U. Manistee, WTIQ 1490 AM, 95.3 FM. And let's jump back down to Saginaw, WSGW AM and FM, 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now. But for this 3 hours, this small corner of the building is called, well, it's not officially called, but I call it the Outdoor Magazine Studio. I'm here with Charlie Root. Now, Charlie, I had a guy the other day say, when you say Charlie and Pat, why don't you open a mic and have them talk? I just figured you get talked out enough with your other job and you just want to sit here and not talk. So I'm not doing it, Charlie, to be rude. I'm just giving you a little bit of a break. Because you and I both know when you go out in that parking lot that those people out there are going to want your time and you're going to have to be on. So I'm just giving you a little bit of a break. Charlie's like, just get on with it, will you? This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's your nature and our nurture. Let Reader create an outdoor getaway in your backyard, as they have for me. We have folks come over and they say, boy, your backyard, your patio is just so nice. And I say, well, thank you. We put a lot of work into it. But the folks at Reader have put a lot of work into it as well. Lawn maintenance, pruning, and it's not going to be that much longer before it's time to start thinking about, dare I say, fall cleanup. Well, the folks from Reader can help you out, can help you with that as well. And if you go down the road even more to that next season behind it, that I'm not even going to say the word, but you know the one I'm talking about that's kind of cold sometimes. Well, they can help you with removal of that material, that white stuff as well. But we're not going to talk about that just yet, are we? ReaderLandscaping.com, ReaderLandscaping.com. As I look at the rundown for this week's show, the thing that strikes me is, man, we've had some quality people on. Now, listen, it's my goal to always have quality people, but as I often say, one of the coolest things about this job is it gives me the chance to talk with people who are true experts in their field, because I'm not an expert. Honestly, I'm not. If there's, maybe I know a little bit about broadcasting, maybe I know a little bit about video, maybe I know a little bit about audio, but I don't proclaim to be an expert even in those areas, and that's where I have some knowledge. Hunting and fishing, I am, as I described with Bill Hahn of J Sporting Goods, a passionate participant. I love it. I enjoy doing it. Do I get as intense or hardcore about it as I used to? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I think that just comes with age, maybe with mellowing out a little bit. But a lot of the people I talk to follow kind of the same progression, right? Because when you're young, you're learning. And we're talking about hunting and fishing here, but I suspect this probably carries over into a lot of other parts of life in general. When you're young, you want to learn how to do it. So you're working and struggling to, okay, how do I do this? How do I catch this fish? How do I hunt this animal? And then you progress into, okay, you're starting to get some skills. Now you're starting to get some experience. So you're getting more proficient, more confident. So then you move on to, okay, I want to take as much of this game as I can legally, right? I want to catch as many walleye as I can. I want to shoot as many rabbits as I can. I want to shoot as many deer as the law will allow me to. Okay, and then, okay, now I'm going to become a little more selective. I've proven that I know how to do something. I've proven that I can be successful in harvesting that fish or game. So now I'm going to become a little more intense, a little more hardcore, and I'm going to concentrate on maybe taking trophies of that species, that fish or game. I get it, right? I mean, a lot of people go through these. And then you get into the stage where it's like, you know what? I really don't have anything to prove anymore. I don't have to prove to somebody else that I can catch walleye. I don't have to prove to somebody else that I can shoot a deer, a big deer. I really can't. But you get to a point where it's like, okay, I got nothing more to prove. And at that point, at least here's what I've seen. The intensity level goes down, but the passion does not. And by that, I mean, I love hunting and fishing just as much as I ever did. But am I as hardcore? Am I as intense? No. And a lot of people I talk with, this is the same similar progression that they go through as well. And after you've done it for a few years and you've proven you know how to do it, part of the goal, part of the joy at that point becomes, number one, just the experience, just of getting back out there and doing it, but then showing others how to do it and sharing that experience with somebody else. I'll bet you on the Angler Quest this summer, I bet you I didn't reel in more than half a dozen fish. But there were hundreds of other fish reeled in by a lot of other people. And that's to me, that's the fun part right now, just sharing it. The experience is the experience. It's not the harvest, it's not the kill, it's not the catch. It's the experience of being out there chasing these critters, enjoying Mother Nature, dealing with the elements, trying to figure things out. That's the fun part. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. I think, if I remember right, I think Dave has a smoked salmon recipe, unless he's switching gears on me. Wouldn't be the first time he's done that. But I think we've got a smoked salmon recipe. That's coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine. Welcome back to the Outdoor Magazine Show. My name is Mike Avery, also sometimes known as the Big Guy. So glad to have you along with us. One of the best parts of my week right here in the radio studio at this microphone. Talking about the outdoors, the history and tradition of the outdoor lifestyle here in the great state of Michigan. And as I was just saying in the earlier segment that this outdoor experience is not about the harvest. It's not about catching fish. It's not about killing critters. But that is part of the process if you want it to be. And it helps to take this whole thing full circle. When you can put fish or wild game for your family on the table, something that you harvested, it's very rewarding. Now, a lot of us struggle to make this fish and wild game taste as good as we can because wild game chef Dixie Dave Minar has set the bar so high. He has established guidelines that the rest of us can never reach, Dave.
Yes. Well, I've done my very best. I've tried to give my knowledge to as many folks as I possibly can, whether it was somebody I was teaching in the restaurant or over the air or over the television show. And you made it really possible with the way that you filmed right in the pan. We used to say that we're getting right in the pan when we did that.
Yeah, and there were times when I thought, I wonder if I'm going to melt the front of that camera off.
When we flambéed?
Exactly. Yeah. And I always wished we had smell-o-vision, too, because as good as these look, either on film or video or whatever, you've got to have the smell, right? I mean, that's a big part of the whole appeal.
When you dump a couple ounces of, say, Jack Daniels or bourbon in a pan and you light it up, the aroma was just amazing.
Oh, just wonderful.
It?
Just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
David, how about now, last time I think I cut you short on a recipe. I don't even think we even did a recipe last week, so I'm going to give you time. What do you got for this time around?
Well, I've got a smoked barbecued salmon. It works very well with that, or lake trout, or splake, or any of them other kind of fish, the Atlantics. So you need about 8 to 10 ounces of boneless, skinless fillet per person, and this could be for 4 people, this idea right here. You need a couple of cooking apples peeled and pureed in a processor. You want to puree them right up. A couple ounces of apple schnapps. You can buy that in little airline bottles, too, a lot of places. And a small quarter of a jar of apple jelly. You can find that. Don't get the apple mint, just get the apple. And you want to cook that down just a little bit before you go to mix all of this stuff together. And melt it down so it's not in that one glob, held together with cornstarch. You need, 3/4 to a cup of barbecue sauce, lemon, cayenne, or Cajun pepper, depending on what your, flavor goes to, in a barbecue grill. And what I like to use is you can buy smoking apple chips. So you need a couple of cups of that. And I like to soak it either overnight or at least 1 to 2 hours in a couple of tablespoons of olive oil in a large mixing bowl. So you're going to mix basically all these ingredients together to your taste except for the smoking chips. You want to do that maybe the day before. And in a glass bowl, or a dish, I should say, put some sauce on the bottom, lay the fish on it, and then spoon some more sauce over the top of the fish, and then cover with saran wrap and refrigerate it overnight. And you can turn it 1 or 2 times, maybe spoon a little more sauce over the top. Now, what we've done here at the cabin, I have taken and I've got the smoking chips ready to go, and I light the one side of the fire, the barbecue. We have a gas grill, and I light that on, and I get the smoking chips in there and start to get some steam rolling in the smoke. And I put the fish on the other side of the rack on the top, and there's no fire underneath that. And you can open the vent up on the side where the fish is, and that's going to draw that smoke and a little bit of heat along that fish. And you want to put the fish with the rib side down to start it. And depending on how hot of a fire you got, it could take a little while, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, because it's going to be relatively cool, and you're going to kind of smoke it. So turn it over the fish, and baste it once or twice, because it doesn't really matter if it falls through a little bit because there's no fire there. Now, when you feel like you've got enough smoky flavor and the chips are dying down, so that there's not going to be too much of a heat coming up, get that barbecue on that side going again. When it warms up a little bit, it's only going to take a couple minutes. You're just going to kind of brown this off a little bit, and put the fish down back on that grate where the fire is. And it's only going to take a little while because you're already smoking it with a nice moist heat, because of the drippings coming down. Man, it's the way to go. I stumbled across this one time, and I've been using it ever since, and I love it.
It sounds wonderful, and you wrapped up that recipe just in time because we're out of time for the Outdoor Magazine show. Thank you to Wild Game Chef Dixie Dave Minar. Thank you, Charlie, and thank you to you for listening. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. The email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I will talk with you next time right here on Outdoor Magazine.